So today I'm working on this 2014 Honda Accord with the 2.4 liter four-cylinder engine. So this particular vehicle has a issue with the steering system. The complaint is the steering goes very hard even when you start the vehicle. And this particular vehicle uses the electric power steering, which means it doesn't use fluid. You can see here I'm trying to turn the steering wheel to the right. It's very hard. So presently the engine is running and you can see it's very hard. Even it's pulsating. You can see as I'm trying to turn it to the right or to the left, it's shaking, it's pulsating, which indicates something is alive. Either the module is alive but it's not happy with something, or there's an issue with the system. So I tried to run a scan to actually know what fault code is stored, but I can see CAN communication timeout error is what the system is complaining about. So I went ahead to check live data at least to kind of see something that is going either below or above a predetermined value, or something that is odd, you understand? So at least I can start my diagnosis from there. So I just try to check through the operating data, and you can see it's still very hard, still not turning, very hard to turn. So while checking some parameters in the live data, I noticed something odd. I noticed the ignition one voltage and the battery voltage are different. And ideally, they are supposed to be the same value, or maybe 0.02 or 0.05 difference. But you can see I have 14 on the ignition voltage and around 8 to 10 volts on the battery voltage, and these readings are coming from the module. So I just had to graph it to be sure of what I'm seeing. And you can see while I'm trying to turn the steering, you can see the voltage is even going lower. So those spikes should not be there. Those downward spikes, these downward spikes should not be there. And that spike was happening as I was trying to turn the steering. Even while trying to turn the steering, that voltage is supposed to remain the same value with the ignition voltage. At a point, I was seeing 4 volts, and this system cannot run with that kind of volt. At the point, I was even seeing 3. In fact, all this wave sign you are saying should not be on this battery voltage. It should be a steady voltage, if not 100% steady, but not this kind of variation. And it should be the same value with the ignition voltage. So I think what I will do now is let me try and select the two voltage and try to isolate them and graph them so we can actually see the difference between them. You can see the difference between the ignition voltage and the battery voltage. The one at the top is the ignition voltage, while the one at the bottom is the battery voltage. And ideally, there shouldn't be that much difference between them. Now, as I'm trying to turn the steering, you can see the spikes coming down. Those spikes are voltage drops. Voltage drops. You can see it's dropping to around 4 volts. And that ideally, this system is not going to work. So something happened as I was trying to go through other data to check what else could be wrong. I just noticed the battery voltage became normal. If you can see now, the battery voltage and the ignition one voltage kind of mirror each other. You can see I have 14 on the ignition voltage and 14 on the battery voltage, and immediately the steering went soft. So with this voltage reading that I saw now, so I'm 100% sure that this difference in voltage is the main issue with this steering system, because immediately the value went back to 14, the battery value went back to 14 volt, the steering became soft immediately. And at this point, I have not touched anything. I'm still in the vehicle, sitting in the vehicle, trying to go through the data. So now it becomes tricky now because this problem is intermittent as at this moment. If I say I should go through wire and circuit testing, testing for power and ground, testing for communication, I'm going to find nothing. So what I have to do is I have to look for a way to duplicate this issue again, or else I won't be able to find anything, because everything works fine. The voltage level is fine. So at this point, I try to check the wiring diagram to actually see what I'm working with. So now on this wiring diagram, I'm trying to look for the ignition voltage and the battery voltage. Now looking at this pin A9, the yellow wire, now tracing it upward, so we can see now that is actually our ignition 1 voltage, this ignition 1A, which was normal on the live data. That wire is also sent to the steering angle sensor to send power to the steering angle sensor. Then the other wire, which is this white wire, the A2, now tracing it upward, I can see it's actually my battery voltage, which is the one designated with hot at all times through this 70 amp fuse. So that is actually where our problem lies, on this white wire. But as at this moment, everything is working fine. So if I even proceed to check my voltage on that white wire, it will be normal as at this point in time. And also, I have tried to wiggle the wires and connectors around the EPS and nothing changed. So I'll have to wait. So this is 2 days after the initial diagnostics. And now, let me start the engine. The steering is hard again, like very, very hard, just as it was the other time. And it keeps pulsating when I try to force it. So as at this point, I try to read fault code, and the same code were coming out, but this time I saw an additional code, which is power relay stock off. So this code of power relay stock off directly points me to the direction of the EPS module itself, because that is where we have a very big relay inside that module, and other connection outside the module is just power feeds and connections to the steering rack. So I just try to check live data to actually see the voltage levels again, if it was the same way it was when the fault was on. So I just try to check the voltage level, which is the ignition voltage and battery voltage, and immediately I can see the same parameters we were seeing initially the other day when the fault was present. You can see I have 14 volt on the ignition 1 volt and 12.6 volt on the battery voltage. So maybe let me try and turn the steering and see if the voltage might go even lower. You can see I'm even having around, if you look carefully, I'm even seeing around 4 volt at the point. Let me try and graph it so I can see it clearly. Yeah, you can see those spikes, those downward spikes on the battery volt. That spike should not be there. The two voltage should be almost or the same exact voltage. So since everything is pointing me in the direction of the module, let me try and smack on the module to see if there will be any changes. You can see as I'm trying to even turn the steering, that spikes is still repeating itself. So let me just try and hit the module maybe with something, and if the relay can start working again, then I'll know, okay, I have to replace the module directly. Because now the more I try to turn the steering, it's still very, very hard, and that downward spike is still showing. Is this variation is indicating poor contact somewhere, either in the relay, but I'm sure it should be in the relay because of that extra code that comes on. So now let me try and mark on the module and see what I'm going to get. And this is the module for this. So let me try to turn it here now. As you can see, it's still hard. I find it hard to turn. It's still very, very hard. I'm currently holding the steering wheel with my other hand, so that once it becomes soft, I will know immediately. See, it's now soft just by hitting. See how it's soft now. So this module needs to be replaced. There is a bad relay there. If possible, sir, probably after replacement, I can open it up and let's see if we'll find something. because as I was smacking on it, all of a sudden it just became soft. See, the steering is soft. Now let's look at the voltage now. Look at it. See what it is here. You can see the as I'm turning the steering now. You can look at the voltage. You see, they are not lagging. Both of them are moving. Both the ignition voltage and the battery voltage. You can see. Look at 13, 13. Always above 13 where I'm turning the steering. You can see two of them are on the same exact line. Now the steering is soft. So soft. I even turn it with one finger. That's it. I even turn it with one finger. But let me try my smallest finger. Yeah, with one finger. So the APS module will be replaced, and I don't think it requires programming. It's plug and play. This thing wasn't very easy to but at last I know this is the top piece. So this is the relay. This is a big relay. Here, this is brownish. So the module was actually replaced on that vehicle and it was fixed. I don't want to go further on this opening of this relay because it was really very tight inside this module, very difficult to bring out. But these are the bad relays inside the module.